Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to a special Sunday morning due edition of the Due Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell's got to unmute his microphone there. I sent you your warning, but it went ignored. There he is. Russell Dobula, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks, everybody, for being here this morning with us. Got a great crowd filing in already, 596 between YouTube and Twitter, and 450 strong over on Rumble. Wonderful for you to see. We apologize for the chaotic schedule this week. We had to take a very rare sick day on Thursday because my little guy was sick. My little guy's teacher has had COVID, and so my guy was showing symptoms, so I couldn't bring him to my in-laws for childcare because that would just be rude. And so I couldn't get childcare, and under that circumstance, I'd normally just say, hey, Russ, do it yourself, because you can. Now that you're getting those big bucks hosting the Jimmy Dore show, you could just do it without me. But Russell was pretty sick, too.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, fuck it, do it live. Russell was pretty sick, too, because Russell was the teacher's aide on the day that my kid was at school and got sick. So, so he was pretty sick.
And I don't wear no fucking mask.
Exactly, yeah. So, well, neither did it. Nobody knew anything, so it wouldn't have mattered. But anyway, I don't think my kid has it. I think he was just incidentally sick with something else, but I couldn't bring him to my in-laws with that uncertainty.
Yeah, what really sucks is I definitely would have gone over there to Columbia.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot going on at Columbia, but Russ was pretty sick too, and we had to stay healthy. Like, we couldn't push it because we had an appointment yesterday, and we met a lot of
Hang on, before we do that.
Oh, that's right. Look at that. We made it.
Got the shirt going and everything.
Made it already. Beautiful. Yeah.
Come on. Bruce Dickinson has got to come on the show.
Exactly, yeah. For sure. Yeah, now that we're giving all that fan service, look at that with the shirt and everything.
I'm literally going to the concert in November. No, seriously, leading into that concert, I'm going to try to get him on the show. What other political podcast does an Iron Maiden sound drop?
That's true. We are the only one. Can't argue with that. But yeah, we had to stay healthy because we had to hit the streets yesterday with our friend Jose Vega, and we did. That's why we took it easy. We're like, you know what? We got people coming in from all over the place to see us and Jose on Saturday. We can't be sick and stand them up. We had people come in from Missouri. We had people come in from Ohio. We met all you guys. It was beautiful to meet you guys. Thank you so much for being there. We had a great time. We did a couple takes. We tried to do a little PSA to get everybody to come out. Here's how the first take went down.
Me and my gay dads.
That was in it.
That's it. All right, good. That's it. We got the tape.
So that was PSA number one. And PSA number two, we were set up right near Yankee Stadium. There was probably about 50 people showed up yesterday. It was great. We got a lot of good work done, gathering signatures to get Jose on the ballot. And so here we are with the man himself right outside of Yankee Stadium getting some work done.
At 161st Street and Grand Concourse, if you look over there, John, there's the table over there where everybody's set up to petition. So Any New York?
Everybody wave.
Wave over here. Say hi. Yeah.
See?
Any
They're
New York
friendly
dissidents
people.
who want to come out, 161st and Grand Concourse, you got a table set up. You can come and get signatures for Jose all day today.
Yeah, what he said. Come and help me get on the ballot. We got to get Richie Torres out. We need to show the world that New York is ready for an alternative to the war drive. By putting me on the ballot, the Bronx is telling the world out loud, we don't want genocidal wars, we don't want Richie Torres, and we don't want AIPAC deciding our elections. We want people deciding our elections. We want people to own ideas. That's what my campaign's about. So come out and support me.
All right, we're going to go hit a bathhouse, and then we're going to get some signatures.
Everybody say yeah!
That was a joke related to the outtake that was clipped separately for some reason. Shout out to John for filming that. Yeah, a great time. I mean, it was a great time yesterday.
A lot of people are commenting on your condition of gigantism. People didn't realize.
I know,
that you're
yeah.
afflicted with that disease.
Yeah, now people know I'm tall.
Yep. No, Keaton is a big dude, man. He's a big dude. Like legit. Like not just relative to short folk like me. He's actually tall relative to most of the population.
I am of above average height. Yes, that is true. That is true.
He's like he could play basketball in China like Taibbi over there. He played in Mongolia. Yeah.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. I could be a Mongolian basketball star. Indeed. Yeah, great time was had. I mean, because I live up here in the boonies, it was my first time meeting you guys in person, those who came out, and it was a lot of fun. It was terrific. In canvassing, getting signatures for Jose, I ran into one. I can't say none, but only one of all the people I talked to was like a partisan Democrat who wouldn't sign because they were afraid that he would take votes away from the Democrat. Aside from that one person, everyone I talked to reacted very favorably to hearing that Jose was neither a Democrat or a GOP. Like they reacted with overwhelming positivity to the fact that he was running outside the two-party system. And so that was really encouraging. And we got a lot of signatures. We had a big team out there. I think there were about 40, 50 people. I don't know what the numbers are, but we were racking them up. So it was a good day.
Yeah, and you could really see how much Richie Torres does not represent that district. I had one guy who said, who's he running against? I said, Richie Torres. He said, oh, no, Richie Torres is my guy. I said, you know how much money Richie Torres takes from AIPAC? And he was like, he takes money from AIPAC? I was like, yeah. He was like, what about your guy? I said, he's opposed to it. He's like, all right, I'll sign.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is why I said,
gonna find anybody over there who supports AIPAC.
The Bronx are not down with this shit. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited that Jose is running, because when you talk to people out there, I heard no support for Richie Torres, none. Even the woman who was concerned that he would take votes from the Democrat, she still didn't have a positive thing to say about Richie Torres. She just said she's a Democrat, the Republicans are worse. I didn't hear a single good thing out of anyone's mouth about Richie Torres all day. And I was out there for 7 hours.
When I was out there for AOC back in the day, you did once in a while get these real old school party Dems who were Joe Crowley fans who actually knew who their rep was. Who'd be like, Joe Crowley has been in this district for many years. He's done a great job. Nothing like that in the Bronx.
Yeah, no. Nothing at all, which was great to see. So it was a great time. We have some more footage. Pardon me. We'll be putting together some more video on Tuesday for you guys. It was a quick turnaround, and we've been off the air for a few days, so we have a lot of news to cover. Also, like I said, if you notice, we are at a special time today, 10 a.m. That's because Russell's flying out to L.A. tonight to host the Jimmy Dore Show next week, which was a gig that he just got. So we wanted to make sure Russell was on this show because we didn't do a show Thursday. So we do apologize. We're trying very hard to keep the schedule constant, and we've been doing good at it the last couple of weeks. But Jimmy, man, guy, I mean, come on. What's this guy just keeps giving us gigs, It's getting annoying.
Yeah, this freaking guy, man. He's off. Wait, what is he doing? He's flying around. He's freaking. I go out. He's not even. He says he's doing gigs. He's not even doing gigs. That's his body double.
Yeah, no.
He's in the backyard with the big aluminum foil thing with the tanning lotion.
Yeah, he keeps pestering us with opportunities to host his show of 20,000 audience members at a time. It's really inconvenient. It's getting to be a real bother.
It's inconsiderate.
Yeah, it's inconsiderate. It's rude, is what it is. Yeah,
getting flown back and forth to Los Angeles, getting out of this wintry hellhole every couple of weeks. Yeah. God, I don't know how I'm standing it.
Yeah. Russell doesn't know how much longer he could take it. But
I can't take this abuse much longer.
Jimmy's actually in my neck of the woods. I'd have gone to see his show probably last night if I weren't going to Jose, because he was 2 hours from Albany, but 2 hours west, not 2 hours south.
Yeah, I thought he was in Pennsylvania.
He was in Pennsylvania the night before, and then I think he was in Cortland, which is like near Syracuse, which is a couple hours from me, but it's west, and obviously the city is south. And had to show up for Jose yesterday. $6.99 over in the Rumble chat. So anyway, folks, we are going to try to keep the schedule constant. Just bear with us. We appreciate you all. Now, I did send out in the Substack and in the Patreon, we are doing a show tonight at 7 p.m. That's going to be our first supporter stream of April. So we're doing a patron exclusive stream. Tusker will be co-hosting with me. So patrons and paid subscribers get a doubleheader, a day-night doubleheader on this Sunday. So we'll be live at 7 p.m. The email and the invite and all the information for that show will go out after this show ends, because those shows are on Rumble, and you can only schedule one live stream at a time on Rumble. So I can't set that one up until this one is done. But 7 o'clock tonight, if you sign up as a paid subscriber, you get a show. We're going to do a real fun show tonight. We're going to cover Argentina's request to join NATO. We're going to cover the bizarre and hauntingly weird Kennedy family Biden endorsement video, and Piers Morgan's throwdown with the Iranian professor. So we got a fun one tonight, and we will be taking calls on that show this evening. So patrons, you will have your Sunday night call-in show this evening. So don't worry about that. We got you covered. We're improvising a little bit today because of the schedule and Russ's trip, but we're getting it done, making it happen for you all. And thanks very much for being here. Indeed. Abiding, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker. Appreciate it.
And I've also made my arrangements for Chicago. It's a done thing.
Yes, so we are going to
Chicago. I will be going to the DNC convention, thanks to all you folks.
Thanks to all you folks. Indeed. Dems would rather start World War III than not fund genocide. Yeah, that's absolutely true, James Van Zanden. Thank you for that. We are without Jake this morning because it's a morning show, but we are with Jake's app, so you could send those Rumble rants over if you got them. And thank you all for being here. So while we were out in the streets of the Bronx yesterday getting signatures for anti-World War III independent candidate Jose Vega, the duopoly was hard at work starting World War III. U.S. House passes $95 billion Ukraine-Israel aid package and sends it to the Senate. From Reuters, the U.S. House of Representatives on Saturday, with broad bipartisan support, passed a $95 billion legislative package providing security assistance to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan over bitter objections from Republican hardliners. The legislation now proceeds to the Democratic majority Senate, which passed a similar measure more than 2 months ago. U.S. leaders from Democratic President Joe Biden to top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell had been urging embattled Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson to bring it up for a vote. The Senate is set to begin considering the House-passed bill on Tuesday, with some preliminary votes that afternoon. Final passage was expected sometime next week, which would clear the way for Biden to sign it into law. The bills provide $60.84 billion to address the conflict in Ukraine, including $23 billion to replenish U.S. weapons, stocks, and facilities, $26 billion for Israel, including $9.1 billion for humanitarian need. I can't even read it. It's so infuriating. I could barely read it. Especially, we spent the day yesterday canvassing in one of the poorest districts in the fucking country. You got people pushing shopping carts.
According to Jose, it's the poorest.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of net worth, I can imagine that since there's almost no home ownership in the Bronx because it's New York City. So in terms of net worth, that's probably true. There are probably districts with lower standards of living, like the South Carolina district with what's the guy's name, the big pharma guy. I always.
James Clyburn.
Yeah, why do I always have a mental block with his name? Anyway, yeah, like there's probably a lower standard of living there than in the Bronx, but in terms of net worth, I believe it since the Bronx is almost all renters. And yeah, to walk around and see the suffering in the streets there, and then to read this, it's just like you could almost not even get through it. $8.12 billion for the Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his thanks. Isn't that nice? Doesn't that warm the heart? Saying U.S. lawmakers move to keep history on the right track. The vital U.S. aid bill passed today by the House will keep the war from expanding, save thousands and thousands of lives, and help both of our nations become stronger, Zelensky said on X.
That's a little celebration that broke out on the floor of the House.
Yeah, right. That was the soundtrack to the flags waving. Yeah. It was unclear how quickly the new military funding for Ukraine will be depleted, likely causing calls for further actions by Congress. Biden, who had urged Congress since last year to approve the additional aid to Ukraine, said in a statement, "It comes at a moment of grave urgency with Israel facing unprecedented attacks from Iran and Ukraine under continued bombardment from Russia." The vote on passage of the Ukraine funding was 311 to 112. Significantly, 112 Republicans opposed the legislation with only 101 in support. That's interesting. So now a majority of Republicans voted no. Mike Johnson is a lame duck. He's done. Far-right Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene told reporters afterward. All right, now we're going to get to Marjorie Taylor Greene in a minute, but we have some more video that we have to play. Here is the scene on the House floor when the bill passed. I mean, unfucking-believable. Look at this. Now, listen, I'm no patriot, okay? The quote for which I'm arguably most famous is, "Fuck the whole country," which is what I said to Thomas Frank. So I'm not a very patriotic fellow.
Former friend of show, Thomas Frank.
Yeah. Not a very patriotic fellow. But this is pretty obnoxious, even by my standards. And like I said, I don't really get warm and fuzzy about the American flag. You know, I'm not a jingoistic person. I don't have any emotional attachment to this country. But if this rubs me the wrong way, it's got to rub the average voter the wrong way, because to see these people waving Ukrainian flags on the floor of the U.S. House, while, like I said, we see such immense suffering here at home, $60 billion to prolong a war that is only going to, despite what Zelensky said, it's going to save lives. No, it's going to do the exact opposite. It's going to get many, many more tens of thousands of people killed for nothing. And you got these fucking imbeciles waving the Ukrainian flag on the floor of the U.S. House. Yeah, that's offensive.
Yeah, I listen in to a pretty broad ideological spectrum of the alternative media. And I got to say, a lot of the more conservative identified commentators are calling this treasonous.
I mean, in spirit, I mean, it's not chargeable, but yeah, in spirit, sure. I can see that. I mean, if not this, what?
Right.
So there's the scene on the floor. All right, now we're going to hear from the man himself, Mike Johnson, who I hope is a lame duck. If the majority of his caucus voted no, there's good reason to think he might be, unless the Democrats save his ass again, because he's their guy right now. As you'll see, the two parties get along very, very well when it comes to getting this shit done. So who knows? Maybe they will bail him out. But here's Mike Johnson.
The House has worked its will. These are not normal times here in the House or around the world, as we all know. And we had a disturbance here on the House floor just a bit ago. I just want to say simply what I think most people around the country understand and agree. We should only wave one flag on the House floor.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you,
this
you
fucking
double-talking
scumbag douchebag.
Yeah, fucking scumbag douchebag. Mr. Double-talking liar. Now he's going to take issue with the public display of Ukrainian flags on the House floor. This is yours. Own it. Own it, you fucking scumbag. You're the one who not only sold out your party, you sold out the entire country. You sold out the world. I mean, you more than anyone right now in this moment, yesterday, no one did more for World War III than you. And now you're going to pretend to take issue with the Ukrainian flags. You're going to try to wiggle out of it with some virtue signaling about how that was uncalled for. You're the one who pushed this through. You're the reason they were waving those flags on the floor. And more important than the fact that they're waving Ukrainian flags on the floor, we're going to have World War III. I mean, now you have just kicked the war machine back into gear after your own party successfully stalled it for the last number of months. Anything before I keep going?
What I don't understand, and I'm far from an expert on the arcane nature of congressional procedure. Why didn't the Freedom Caucus pull the same thing on him that they pulled on McCarthy?
Well, I think they're going to now. I think that's what they're going to do now.
Well, didn't they do that ahead of him bringing up a Ukraine thing? Like, why didn't they do it before? Because they telegraphed he was going to do this. They had 2 weeks warning that he was going to bring up this bill, at least.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, perhaps they should have. I'll have to look into like what procedurally would have been involved with that. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly a good point.
And I think we know which flag that is. I said these are not normal times. They're not. The world is destabilized, and it's a tinderbox. It's a dangerous time. 3 of our primary adversaries, Russia and Iran and China, are working together, and they're being aggressors around the globe. And they're a global threat to our prosperity and our security. Their advance threatens the free world, and it demands American leadership. If we turn our backs right now, the consequences could be devastating. So this afternoon, the House acted, and we sent over to the Senate, and it will be transmitted shortly, our supplemental national security legislation. And make no mistake, this is not a blank check like the Senate supplemental bill was. This is very different. Instead of taking the path of least resistance and bringing up the Senate supplemental on the House floor, or just allowing a discharge petition to pursue, which would have had the same outcome, we gave our members a voice. We gave them a chance. We gave them a better process and ultimately a much better policy.
What a weasel. You knew that the Democrats wanted the war funding, and so you jumped over half of your caucus to get the war funding, and now you're going to try and spin it like you gave your members a voice? I mean, what a fucking weaselly scumbag douchebag.
Well, and you just have to ask, how does this happen? Because Mike Johnson, one of the reasons that they found him acceptable as speaker was he had avowed that he was opposed to Ukraine funding. So
he didn't even get them the border shit. Not only did he give the Democrats the war funding, he didn't even give a consolation prize to his base. He just completely sold them out for nothing at all.
Well, that's my question. We have to ask at this point, more and more, I'm coming to the conclusion, as many people who watch our show have often urged us to look at certain things, which I've been trying to do as much as I have time. Come on, man. I mean, all of this is a sham, even beyond what we criticize it as being a sham. That the donors are running things. It goes deeper than that. This is some deep state intelligence agency kind of shit that really runs the government on this level. This is why a lot of people raise the alarm about Project 2025, about this notion that whatever Republican gets in, presumably Trump, is going to use their prerogative as the executive to fire all the deep state bureaucrats. But clearly you can make an argument for that, because Trump was not able to exercise his powers as president over the military-industrial complex because there is a deep state of permanent bureaucrats that countermanded his will, that countermanded his desire. Yeah. And that's backed up by the propaganda arm of the deep state, the media. Clearly, Donald Trump was intimidated, and this is where you always make this point. He's like a bully. He talks big, and then you smack him in the nose, and he runs away.
Right.
He got intimidated with all the Russia, Putin puppet shit. Obviously, he was signaling that he wanted to turn down the temperature and work with Russia. He made that he couldn't do it. They wouldn't let him do it. When you look at this with Mike Johnson, who told them that he was not in favor of Ukraine funding, it's one of the reasons he wound up being this very unlikely Speaker of the House. What happens? What did they say to him? Is it a threat? Is it a promise? Is it both carrot and stick? There is an explanation for this, and it's not anything that we're aware of. There's no reasonable explanation for why he flipped on this when he had a contrary view. It would be one thing if he got elected Speaker on the promise he would do this. He became Speaker on the promise that he wouldn't.
Yep.
So what happened? We have to ask this. What happened? Legitimately, what happened? Who spoke to him, and what did they tell him? Did they show him pictures of his children at school? Like, what is it that they do to get somebody like Mike Johnson to 180 like this?
Well, I want to go now to Hakeem Jeffries, who gave his reaction to this, because this is obviously something that he's been pushing for a long time. And so he was very happy. He had a great day yesterday.
This is a moment to choose. This is a moment to choose. We can choose democracy or autocracy. We can choose freedom or tyranny.
We need Jose.
We can choose truth or propaganda. We can choose Ukraine or Russia. We can choose Zelensky or Putin. We can choose a democratic ally or a sworn enemy. This is a time to choose. The American people have always stood on the side of democracy and freedom and truth, which is why we must stand on the side of the Ukrainian people. We will stand with the Ukrainian people today. We will stand with the Ukrainian people tomorrow. We will stand with the Ukrainian people until victory is won.
You're such a fantastic moron.
Yeah. And obviously there will be no victory won. All this accomplishes is more death for the Ukrainian people. That is all this accomplishes. Now we're going to go one last video on this subject. This was Marjorie Taylor Greene outside of the Capitol building giving her reaction.
I think people have been too obsessed with voting for foreign wars and the murder industry here in America to actually understand how angry Americans are. When you have the strongest, loudest voices in the Republican movement and grassroots, furious, calling for Mike Johnson to be vacated. The people here, my colleagues, have not heard the message. So I'm looking forward for them to go home and hearing from the folks back at home. But this is the sellout of America today. When we had members of Congress in there waving the Ukrainian flag on the United States House of Representatives floor, while we're doing nothing to secure our border, I think every American in this country should be furious. Who's going to vote for these people? How can you vote for these people? They don't serve our country.
Republicans deserve to call a vote on a motion to vacate eventually.
I don't think you were listening very well.
No, you said you wait for your constituents, but will you ever call a vote?
But I mean, given what you said, do Republicans deserve to be in the majority?
That's up to the people, because this is the third betrayal by Mike Johnson.
See, so, I mean, look, there's a lot there to respond to that last bit where he asked, do the Republicans deserve the majority? And she says, well, that's up to the people. Again, that's just a level of balls you would never get from an AOC. AOC would never say that. She would never say that. She would say, of course we deserve the majority. Of course we have to, maintain majority support. She would never go as far as to say that. The other thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene said that I thought was noteworthy there was she said the loudest voices, the loudest and most prominent voices in the Republican Party were screaming that they didn't want this. That is true, but it's incomplete, because I would argue even more importantly than that, it wasn't just that the loudest voices in the GOP were saying they didn't want this. Most of the Republicans didn't want this. If you go back to the Reuters article, 112 Republicans voted no, only 101 voted yes. So it's not just that the Freedom Caucus are this loud vocal minority. No, they actually represent the majority of the party, which made this triply insulting and triply horrible. And so I hope they file a motion to vacate. It's just, you see a thing like this and I'm sorry. Look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's horrible on Israel. She's horrible on a lot of things. She says a lot of things that I find to be pretty abhorrent. But they are the only ones in this government who are willing to actually put their political ass on the line to stop World War III. There's just no denying that. It's not an endorsement of them as human beings. It is an acknowledgement of the political reality that there is no faction in Washington, D.C. opposed to this chaotic and suicidal death drive to World War III, other than these people, other than Matt Gaetz and people like her, and who's the other guy, Chip Roy. Like, they're the only ones. Prove me wrong.
Well, particularly with Ukraine, and that really demonstrates how much Israel is for a lot of the people who are standing up for Palestine. It's the settler colonial element. It's not the war element, and perhaps not even the genocide element. It's who's being genocided.
Right.
This white-on-white war, they don't seem to have any particularly strong convictions about.
Right.
One way or the other. They just seem to go where the wind blows. There's no real anti-war caucus within the Democrats. There is a, hey, we just went to school and we took a lot of classes about how it's bad to massacre and colonize brown people, and this is causing us a lot of cognitive dissonance. So we have to take a mild stand against it. Not even a strong stand, a mild stand against it. But with Ukraine, there's nothing on the Democrats.
You're talking about in terms of like the when you talk about a mild stand against it, you're talking about the people in office, right?
I'm talking about the squad, basically.
Yeah,
so they say, we should have a ceasefire. None of them will go so far as to say we need a one-state solution. None of them will go so far as to openly say Israel is a settler colonial state. It is an apartheid state. They will not go that far.
How about going as far as to say, when asked, does Joe Biden deserve a second term? How about going as far as to say, well, I don't know. That's up to the people. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene just said.
Yeah,
they won't
that
go
would
there.
never happen. That would never happen. No, you only find that on the right, which is why electorally, politically, these labels just don't mean anything anymore. There are things that come out of the Democrats I find just as repugnant as anything you would hear from Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's a wash on that level. This is why longtime activists, you would run into them out there when you're campaigning for Bernie. I certainly did. Many of them would say, yeah, you're wasting your time. You know, people come up and talk to you, people who've been in the fight since the 60s, 70s. It's issue by issue. Get behind issues. Don't get behind candidates. Don't get behind parties. That's why serious activists, very often, that's where they end up for that reason. So I think in our times, that's all the more true.
Yes, I agree. DC, thanks for the $2. People do decide our elections, a select few. The masses, however, have no oversight. Thank you, DC. Appreciate that. Russell, you got the cowbell handy? We got a nice donation here. From Best Boomer Vita. Thanks you for the $49.99. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Great job, Russell and Keaton. Love your show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here, and that's a very kind donation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Johnson was shown something to change his mind. What a crock of crap that Congress is. Thank you, Dodger, for those two.
That legendary never released to the public angle on the Kennedy assassination, maybe.
Maybe. I feel the need to quote my favorite song by Metallica here. Justice is lost. Justice is raped. Justice is gone. Pulling your strings, seeking no truth. Winning is all. Find it so grim, so true, so real. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. Let's go to Rebel Seer asked me here, did you sign the petition yesterday to get RFK Jr. on the ballot? Yeah, we ran into a friend of ours who recognized me. I asked her to sign Jose's ballot signature petition, and she's like, oh, I know you. And then she's actually going out there getting signatures for Jose today. I did sign it. I signed it for a very simple reason, which is that the more ballots RFK is on, the more panic it's going to generate at the DNC going into November. He's on the ballot in Michigan. They're very nervous about that, and that's a good thing, you know. So that's why I signed it. I would never in a million years vote for RFK, but yeah, no, the more ballots he's on, the more pants shitting there's going to be at Biden HQ. And so I like that he's getting on the ballot as a third-party candidate, even though there is no chance in a million years I would ever pull the lever for him.
I did not sign it because I felt like, I could see Keaton's side of it. I just felt like if I find this person's view so abhorrent, why would I sign their petition?
Well, Jose, his because Jose signed it too, and his justification was a little different from mine. He just said, I believe everybody should have the right to be on the ballot, which is fine. I mean, I agree with that too.
Yeah,
to
like
an extent.
I have no judgment about that. Like,
Sure.
yeah, I could see that position. I just didn't. I share it in the sense if you gave me the option of keeping him off the ballot, I wouldn't take it.
Right.
Like if I were king for a day, I wouldn't say no, he shall not run. But doesn't mean I'm going to sign his shit.
Right. Well, no, I mean, I get that. I get that too. And Jose said, he believes everybody should be on. And like I said, I agree with that to a certain extent. Then again, like, would I sign David Duke's petition? No. Right. But the other thing with that is David Duke would not take votes from Biden. Like, there's no strategic advantage to having like a far right extremist on the ballot because they're not going to affect the Democratic vote at all. Having a pressure candidate like RFK, who's a moderate, on the ballot in as many states as possible, yeah, that's going to cause a lot of chaos and panic. He's on in Michigan. The Democrats are already afraid. New York, they have less to be afraid because it's not a swing state, but still, principle, I think, yeah. Candidates like that who can siphon support from Democrats, sure. I mean, let them be on the ballot. I have no problem signing for that. Like I said, doesn't mean I would ever, contemplate voting for him. But yeah, there are some moderate Democrats who are going to vote for him instead of Biden, and that's going to make liberals angry, and I think that's good.
Yeah, here RFK, he's going to campaign in Dearborn next week.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
They're looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's true. All righty, so let's go on to segment number. I will do a couple more of these. McCarthy bullied out of Congress, weakening majority. Yes, DC. Well, I think they're going to file a motion to vacate here against Johnson. I mean, it seems like they kind of have to, right? I mean, he kind of forced them to. If he gets away with this, then the Freedom Caucus comes out with egg on their face. And it's not just a Freedom Caucus. I mean, they apparently have the votes to do it. The only question is, do the Democrats bail him out? Because the Democrats are having a big love fest with him. Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi.
Okay. You should really give that to Medea Benjamin.
Pelosi, yeah.
That'll really get under her skin.
Yeah. That's Nancy Pelosi's sister-in-law from Greenpoint. Nancy Pelosi. No, she gave a deranged speech that I didn't play because I figure we might want to cover this again on Jimmy's tomorrow.
Yeah, Malcolm sent that over.
Yeah, so I figure we'll probably do that on Jimmy's show tomorrow. But no, they love Mike Johnson now, so maybe the Democrats now they do bail him out. Who knows? I mean, that's certainly possible.
Might. They love George Bush.
Yeah, they love George Bush. Now they love Mike Johnson. So I mean, he went out on a limb for them. So maybe they'll save him. And all
he has to do is give a candy to Nancy Pelosi on the floor of the House. He's golden.
Yeah, there you go. So we will have to see. Okay, segment number 2. Russell, this is yours. Boeing.
Yes. The day that I'm taking a flight out of New York, not on a Boeing, as you might imagine. So the latest in stories to scare the living shit out of you if you fly on the regular.
I'm leaving on a jet plane.
Our special Boeing sound drop. Okay, where is
this? Is it?
Thank you, sir. All right, so a long-awaited whistleblower testimony was held in Congress on Wednesday. And what the witnesses had to say was fucking terrifying. Even Vox here. Boeing's problems were as bad as you thought.
I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Boeing went under the magnifying glass at not one, but 2 Senate hearings today, examining allegations of deep-seated safety issues plaguing the once revered plane manufacturer. Witnesses, including 2 whistleblowers, painted a disturbing picture of a company that cut corners, ignored problems, and threatened employees who spoke up. These hearings have convened just 4 months after a door plug blew out of a Boeing-made Alaska Airlines plane mid-flight in January, sparking further concerns about a precipitous downside in Boeing's reputation for safety and quality in recent years. The first hearing, held by the Senate Commerce Committee, questioned aviation experts who put together an FAA report published in February. It concluded that the company had not made enough strides in improving its safety culture since the deadly 2018 and 2019 737 MAX crashes that killed 346 people. Quote, there exists a disconnect, for lack of a better word, between the words that are being said by Boeing management and what is being seen and experienced by employees across the company, said witness Javier De Luis, an aerospace engineer and lecturer at MIT. That is the nicest way to say the company is lying I've ever heard. That is quite a tortured way, roundabout way of saying they're fucking lying. The second hearing put the spotlight on two whistleblowers, Boeing quality engineer Sam Salpour and former Boeing engineer Ed Pearson, alongside aviation safety advocate and former FAA engineer Joe Jacobson and Ohio State University aviation professor Sean Pruchnicki. The whistleblowers slammed Boeing for allegedly knowing about defective parts and other serious assembly problems and choosing to ignore or even conceal them. Such problems could slow down production and be expensive to fix, and internal and external critics say that Boeing's priority was maximizing its profits. Salpour, who has worked at Boeing since 2007, came forward in early April warning that more than 1,000 Boeing planes in the sky were in danger of structural failure due to premature fatigue. In the 787 line, tiny gaps between plane parts hadn't been properly filled, he said. Quote, I found gaps exceeding the specification that were not properly addressed 98.7% of the time, Salpour testified during the hearing today. He said the debris ended up in these unfilled gaps 80% of the time. Such debris could, in some cases, result in a fire. Boeing, for its part, has denied Salpour's assertions, saying that claims about the structural integrity of the 787 are inaccurate, and noting further that it had tested the 787 line many more times than the jet would actually take off or land in its lifespan, and had found no evidence of fatigue. Now, this is interesting. I looked through 4 articles on this and chose this one because it had information I didn't see anywhere else. Salpour pointed out today that the above and beyond stress testing referred to older 787 planes in which excessive force wasn't used during assembly. This sounds like pretty typical Boeing, right? The misdirection. Talking about the faulty software system that contributed to the deadly 737 MAX crashes, Pruchnicki, the OSU professor, accused Boeing of sneaking the system through the certification process. It was all about money, he said. That's why those people died. Just to fill this in a little bit, one of the reasons, the main reason the 737 MAX crashed was in order to compete with Airbus, they designed a plane that essentially wasn't airworthy, where the engines were placed in such a way that they needed a computer system to adjust the pitch of the plane in case the nose went too high up or too far down. They snuck this system past the FAA without really explaining what it was, and it didn't fucking work. And the CEO knew this, and other people knew that this system was dangerous. That's why I always say Dennis Muhlenberg, who was the CEO at that time, he was the mayor in Jaws. He told people it was safe to get in the water, even though he knew there was danger to the public. He should be in prison. Instead, he got a golden parachute. Boeing has said it's cooperating fully with investigators, but at another Senate hearing in March, the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board testified that 2 months after the Alaska Airlines incident, Boeing still had not provided several records related to door plug failure. Boeing says it can't find them. Now, this is very interesting. This is also not in every article. Pearson, the ex-Boeing whistleblower, testified today that this couldn't be true. Quote, "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cover-up," he said. "Records do, in fact, exist. I know this because I've personally passed them to the FBI." Dun, 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 dun. So maybe some people will finally go to jail. By the way, on that, Boeing basically got a suspended sentence. They settled the MAX crashes for billions of dollars, but they're on probation, apparently. Now, some people at the Justice Department are saying they have violated their probation by not going forward and correcting the problems. So they should, once again, be liable to prosecution for the MAX crashes. We can only hope. A steady crop of whistleblowers have come forward over the decades flagging issues with Boeing's planes, particularly after the MAX crashes. Boeing's safety concern tip portal also saw a 500% increase in reports after the Alaska Airlines incident. A previous whistleblower from Boeing's South Carolina plant, former Boeing quality manager John Barnett, claimed there were numerous quality issues with Boeing's manufacturing process, including dangerous debris that hadn't been removed from its jets and issues with its emergency oxygen system. He was recently found dead of an apparent suicide. Right before his third day of deposition testimony in his whistleblower lawsuit, Barnett, like others, said he had faced retaliation from the company. Some of Barnett's former co-workers don't believe he died by suicide, according to reporting from the American Prospect. Imagine that. All right, so we have a video of Sailpour's testimony in which, among other things, he describes workers at Boeing forcing the plane parts into place by jumping on them.
Have analyzed Boeing's own data to conclude that the company is taking manufacturing shortcuts on the 787 program that may significantly reduce the airplane safety and the life cycle. Since 2013, there have been serious issues on the 787 program, not properly closing thousands of gaps in its assembly of the fuselage on major joints. Boeing's standard says that these gaps must be closed, usually by a small shim or filler called a shim when they exceed 5 thousandths of an inch. This seems very small. Boeing's PR team like to call it the width of a human hair when you are operating at 35,000 feet. Details are that the size of a human hair can be a matter of life and death. In a rush to address its bottlenecks in production, Boeing hit problems pushing pieces together with excessive force to make them appear that the gaps don't exist, even though they exist. The gap didn't actually go away, and this may result in premature fatigue failure. Effectively, they are putting out defective airplanes. I repeatedly produced reports for my supervisors and Boeing management demonstrating that the gaps in the 787 not being properly measured or shimmed in two major joints of the 787. Evaluating from the 29 inspected airplane data, I found gaps exceeding the specification that were not properly addressed 98.7% of the time. I want to repeat that. 98.7% of the time, the gaps that they were supposed to be shimmed, they were not shimmed. The other issue that I found, when you have these gaps and you drill through them, you get some debris in the stack-ups. This is known to be a problem, not a good thing for the airplanes by Boeing. But Boeing data also, from the inspection of the data, shows that the debris ended up in the gaps 80% of the time. Again, you have debris in the gaps 80% of the time. I want to make clear that I have raised these issues over 3 years. I was ignored. I was told not to create delays. I was told, frankly, to shut up. At one point, Boeing management got sick of me and raising these issues and moved me out of the 787 program into the 777 program. On the 777 program, I found problems, again, I found that Boeing started a new process to build the airplane without taking into the consideration of the design of the airplane and how the airplane was designed. As a result, I witnessed severe misalignment when the planes were assembled. Boeing manufacturing used unmeasured and unlimited amount of force to correct the misalignment. And this also weakens the airplane in the long run. I literally saw people jumping on the pieces of the airplane to get them to align. I call it the Tarzan effect, among other improper methods. Again, I raised concerns internally. I was sidelined. I was told to shut up. I received physical threats. My boss said, I would have killed someone who said what you said in a meeting. And then this is not a safety culture when you get threatened by bringing issues of safety concerns.
That's not good.
Yeah, and at a company where people turn up mysteriously dead in the parking lot, when your boss says something like that, it's not a figure of fucking speech.
Yeah, shit's a little different. Yeah.
No, this guy I think it was in his testimony, he said if something happens to him, he's at peace. I mean, of course he's got to be thinking about that. This
well,
guy,
how could you not?
They obviously, allegedly, one can speculate. I'm sure he died in a very safe and effective suicide. But, one might believe for good reason that this fucking guy was openly whacked by the company in a very transparent and obvious murder. So what's that like for a whistleblower?
Of course. Yeah. Now that when he is talking about having heard that, the timeline is he probably heard that before the John Barnett incident happened. But still, I mean, looking back on it now,
no, but in this
giving
testimony,
your testimony now, right? Exactly.
It was either in this testimony or in an interview. He said, I'm at peace if something happens to me. Of course, you're thinking that way.
Well, yeah, you can't not think that.
It's not like they were subtle about it. I'm sorry, man.
Right.
Like, it's allegedly, it's speculation, but I'm sorry, it doesn't look good. Believe me, not good. That guy in the parking lot.
Yeah. No, that's just, I mean, the saga continues, but at least now someone was able to actually testify in a way that is complete. Obviously, Barnett's was not finished. He went for one day and then was going back for the second day.
Right. Well, there's him. There's Ed Pearson, who, I'd really like to interview him. He is one of the early whistleblowers who was really laying this all out for people. He's one of the main people who put me onto this story years ago. And this is exactly what he said was going to happen. He said, you're going to see these planes starting to have problems because of the way they're being put together. And now here we are.
Indeed. All right, folks, like I said, we are doing a double header today. We have a public stream, which is going on right now. Sure. And we also have a supporter stream tonight. So if you want, you could sign up at patreon.com/do dissidents and join our supporter community here. Perks of joining are your name up in lights on the patron scroll here. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As. Today we're combining that with a supporter stream because of the schedule change, because Russ is flying out to California this evening. So for those who joined late, we are doing a supporter stream tonight at 7 o'clock, which is the usual time for the public show. We moved the public show to the morning because Russell has a flight to catch later, but Tusker will be joining me as a guest co-host for a special supporter stream tonight at 7 p.m. And so if you guys want access to that show, you can join for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/do dissidents. You can also go to dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, dodissidents.locals.com. If you're watching over on Rumble, you can join our locals community very easily. There's a bright red button that says join right underneath the video screen. You hit that button, and for as little as $5 a month, you get all the perks that I mentioned. So we have a fun supporter stream coming up later. If you want access to that, you can sign up and support this project. It goes a long way towards keeping us up and running and censor-proofing the operation. So that's patreon.com/do dissidents. You can become a paid member on our Substack, dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals. Perks are the same across all three of those platforms. You guys are the backbone of the show, so thank you guys very much for signing up. Also, while we are on the sort of housekeeping subject, tickets for our live show are still on sale in New York City, June 9th at the Producers Club Theater in Manhattan. They are going very fast. We now have 4 seats remaining for the 7 p.m. show. You can get tickets for that one by going to dudissidents.com/night show. We have a dozen left, 12 for the day show. So we are almost sold out on both shows. So we have a total of 16 left for the combined 2 shows, 4 in the evening, 12 in the daytime matinee. So if you would like to come see us, today could be the last chance. We are going to sell out any day now. So dudissidents.com/day show, dudissidents.com/night show. The day show brings you to the matinee event page. The night show brings you to the 7 p.m. event page. Jesse Jett, our friend over at the Indie News Network, he is confirmed as a musical guest. We got Tusker, we got Jose coming. They will be on our panel, I guess you would call it, and it's going to be a great time. Both shows will be different program for both the 2 p.m. and the 7 p.m. So get your tickets now. They will be gone pretty soon. So thank you guys all very much for your support. Let's see here. Kuznetsky Bassane, the donor class, U.S. House just passed the Ukrainian Nazi Zionist MIC support bill. Yes, that's what they should have called it. Indeed. Sorry, go ahead. Had they included the border, there would be nothing for Trump to run on. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to comment on some people are talking about with the DEI with Boeing, and some people I think are rightly pushing back on that. This is something I might actually do an article on this, because this is really striking me. I bet after the minimum wage segments that we did, it tuned me in more to the conservative propaganda than I'm usually tuned in. I don't hear that much of it. When you really look at what conservatives are told to disempower working people and get them marching off in the wrong direction, and you combine it with what the identitarians tell workers to get them charging off in the wrong direction, it really is 2 wings of the same bird. Boeing is where it is because of capitalism. DEI is incidental. Now, what they'll tell conservative-minded people is this is all happening because of DEI, right? they'll just distract them from what really happened. And these 2 things, they really do work together. The conservatives need these DEI activists to distract from what's really happening here, which is capitalism gutting an engineering company, right? Because in the end, chasing the stock price every quarter is not compatible with safety, right? That's compatible with cutting corners. Now, they might start some DEI programs, which that's great, because they don't want people asking what flaws in the basic premises of capitalism are dangerous to the public. They don't want people asking that. So they want to say, oh, look, they want to hire the baggage carrier as a pilot, which, I'll tell you, that's not a good idea in and of itself. But what I'm saying is that's there for a reason. That's there to distract you. That's there to get you fighting over that instead of the real cause of the problem.
Oh, yeah. No, if they didn't have a DEI program, they would have to invent one in order to, sort of pin the blame for this on that. I was listening to Rogan and Tucker. They did their podcast. I was listening to that yesterday because I had a long drive into the Bronx. And they go off talking about these sort of homeless, these sort of non-for-profit sort of homeless assistance agencies who apparently do more to exploit the homeless than they do to help them, and they make money off of it. A lot of these people, they make $250,000. Like somebody was saying, some of these people make $250,000 a year. They're the most evil people, like profiting off of homelessness. Isn't that evil? Yes, but are they more evil than the Vanguard, who's causing the homelessness by buying up all the housing? Like, this is another thing where you're using the fact that these sort of NGOs who exploit the problem. I'm not saying that that's a good thing to do or that they're not part of the problem, but are the people exploiting the problem the greater evil than the people who are literally creating the problem? These Vanguard executives who get paid billions of dollars a year, who literally buy the housing and create these crises in the first place. Like, a lot of times, like the woke progressive activist space is something that if capitalism didn't already see existing, they'd have to fund one. They'd have to create one because it's a perfect scapegoat to the people with more power.
Well, this is where more and more, a lot of people have recommended taking a look into the Cultural Congress and the way intelligence services were involved in the 50s and 60s counterculture and shaping it and using it to manipulate dissent in directions they wanted it to go in and to control the conversation. I just ordered a book, I think it's called Weird Scenes in Topanga Canyon, that kind of comprehensively covers that. And, I'm very curious about that, because the more I look around, the more I say, not only do I think they're probably right about that, it probably just never ended. It's just now the conversation has so jumped the shark, it's just kind of transparent. They're just, it seems like they're just throwing out nonsense for people to fight about in order to just avoid a conversation about neoliberalism failing to fulfill the mandate of creating peace and prosperity.
Yeah, I think that's true. All right, let's go on to some super chats. DC, waving foreign flags equals treason, but who'll prosecute? Is that prosecutable? Waving a flag? I don't think it should be prosecutable, but I think in spirit, I definitely see the point. Most of Congress are the United Snakes of America. They cannot of the people's wants and needs. Bow down, you plebes. Thank you, Dodger12. Appreciate that. Sparky, is Mike Johnson so naive that he actually believed the intelligence briefing, or did they let him know? They let him know about the underage goat across the state lines. That's one theory. Thank you, Sparky. Okay, let's keep going.
Let me just say, the name of this book is Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream by David McGowan.
All righty.
I'm having that delivered at Jimmy's, actually.
Oh, there you go. All right, this is a quick one, folks. Chelsea Handler did a comedy set. I'm assuming this was somewhere in L.A. I'm not sure where. It didn't have to be, though. I don't even know why that's a safe thing to assume, since she tours. But this is at a pretty big theater, and Chelsea Handler did that Instagram video with Noah Tishby, the Zionist, where they did the typical gaslighting. This was months back, about you could be pro-Palestine and pro-Israel, blah blah blah, right? Meanwhile, if you look at Tishby's Instagram, which Chelsea Handler refers to in the show, it's just all her posing with the IDF and just make excuse after excuse for horror after horror. So here is Chelsea Handler getting some pushback from the audience. It's about time.
I can't hear you. What? Oh, honey, please. This is not what this night is for.
Oh, honey, please.
Remove her.
Remove her.
Palestinian babies, you're a genocide supporter. Genocide supporter.
I heard that midget she fucked was there, too.
Let's just wait until she goes out or loses her voice. I'm so sorry, you guys.
You guys should be this angry about genocide. No people standing up. Be angry about genocide. Be angry about genocide.
Good luck. These are people who literally paid money to see Chelsea Handler. Yeah, right.
Somebody said they should die. That wasn't Chelsea Handler, to be clear. That was one of the audience.
With a taser pointed at my kidneys, saying they're going to tase me if they don't give them both hands. I mean, just police brutality. It's all on camera on the inside. I thought I was filming myself, but my camera wasn't working. Back up. Home.
Yeah, so this isn't New York. That's not NYPD.
No, I thought this was L.A., but maybe I'm wrong.
You can just let her go.
I'm assuming the only city where there would be that many people shallow and stupid enough to pay to see Chelsea Handler would be Los Angeles. But maybe that's a wrong assumption. I don't know. It looked like a pretty big
New
theater.
New York. You
Maybe
got
New
those
York.
people.
Yeah.
Look at the Maddow thing.
Well, yeah, of course.
That
Handler,
was packed. Well, see, this is where, that night with Jose, they didn't arrest us, but you do have to go into these things prepared to get arrested. In the end, if a cop wants to fuck with you, they'll just arrest. They can arrest you for any reason, and then the judge will just dismiss it if it's no cause. But they know they gave you a bad couple days.
Right. Exactly. And what makes Handler especially repulsive is that she constantly virtue signals the most shallow, liberal sentiments about identity politics, about feminism, about gay rights. Like she said in the video with Noah Tishby, Israel is an ally because you can have a gay wedding, which is the fun kind of wedding, which apparently is not even true. I don't think they have gay marriage in Israel. But even if it were,
don't they only have civil unions in Israel?
I don't think they have full marriage recognition in Israel. But you can have a ceremony, and those are the fun ones. She says the fun kind of wedding without all the straight people, like virtue signaling that she prefers gay weddings to straight weddings in order to sort of build some kind of liberal, progressive bona fides, while at the same time using that sentiment to justify or at least excuse genocide being committed by Israel. So she's just the worst. I mean, that is the lowest and most amoral weaponization of woke politics that you could think of, and she is the worst offender. And so it's about time that someone called her out on that, because she'll say, I can ski topless, and like this whole thing, like. Total just like shallow girl boss feminism with no actual critique of systems of power that oppress ordinary people, right? Just the most shallow surface level I'm with her bullshit. And it's one thing to be that way. I mean, that's off-putting in general, but it's especially off-putting when you hide behind that kind of virtue signaling to excuse a genocide. And so it's about time that she got called on that. That's why I thought that was worth showing.
Well, this is why I keep bringing up the midget fucking thing, but it really is in keeping with what you're talking about. Chelsea Handler has long liked to talk about her sex life in that tone of it being empowering.
Right, that it's liberating. Right,
it's very liberating and very empowering. Now, listen, I'm a libertarian as far as things like that go. Like, if you're not hurting anybody, everything's consenting, I go live your best life, whatever. But that's not a value system. It's not a substitute for an ethics or a morality, and it certainly does not constitute an ethics or a morality in and of itself. Certainly, if you want to think a little more deeply and philosophically than that ding-dong would be capable of doing, there have been a lot of disciplines of the mind, a lot of theologies, a lot of spiritual precepts that suggest that a certain disciplining of the body is required to free the mind. Now, that's not a moral thing. That's a question of what you want to do with your life or your consciousness. But the idea that just being completely sexually hedonistic is somehow the path to true wisdom and liberation, I don't think that's really a great message to put out either. And it is kind of part and parcel of the new left liberal ethos, right?
Yeah,
There's
it's
why
just
they can't draw any. It's narcissism, right? This is me. This is what I feel. This is what I like. Who cares? Why is that supposed to be? What's so fucking interesting about that? Keep it to yourself.
Well, it's also it is using that to express a certain virtue, right? I'm living a certain lifestyle, and by me as a famous person doing this and talking about this, I'm empowering other people to do the same thing, and that's liberating to women and girls.
Right,
and
but it's not. Look, is it?
Well, is it or is it not? Like I said, I'm with you on that. I don't care how anybody lives their life. To me, that's the most boring thing in the world is to concern
Right.
myself with how someone else lives their life. But
in both directions, I'm not interested in hearing about it either.
Right. But and what is obnoxious about it is when you project that, as you said, as a value system, because it's not a value system.
Right.
Fuck who you want, don't fuck who you don't. I don't care. But don't come to me and say that you're a virtuous person because of who you fuck and who you don't. That's irrelevant.
And because you like to tell everyone about it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So good for the people. I mean, I don't think those were fans who turned on her. I think those were interventionists who bought a ticket knowing they were going to start some shit. But good, because her fans need to hear it, because her fans are the kinds of people who get sucked into that, not really knowing. Like, some of them are shallow and stupid, and they take a certain pleasure in that. But some of them are just like well-meaning liberals who actually think that it is acceptable to substitute that kind of virtue signaling for an actual, like, political ideology or thought process, right? Girls is the same way. The HBO show. I mean, Lena Dunham is the exact type of thing where that show, that Girls show was really interesting because the first few seasons were actually great because they were these selfish, narcissistic, manipulative liars, but they were like young people who were like trying to make their way in a very difficult world. It's New York City. It's the competitive world of publishing and showbiz, and it's a system in that world that those girls existed in that really incentivized that kind of manipulative, narcissistic behavior. And we got the sense that even though they partook in that, they were kind of trying to transcend it. And then, oddly enough, like season 4 or 5, it took this turn where Lena Dunham took this turn. She was all in for Hillary. I'm with her. Where instead of rooting for these characters despite those flaws, it asked us to embrace those flaws and root for those characters because of those flaws. And that's when the show became unwatchable. That's when the show became totally unwatchable. And she's the same way. Like Chelsea Handler is the same way.
Well, Lena Dunham is a really good example of how they have interpreted just constant displays of TMI as virtue. She literally put in her book a kind of fun, whimsical description of molesting her sister when she was a child, and thought that would be like well received.
Right.
I mean that's where this ultimately goes. If you get constant positive feedback for revealing sexual behavior that's taboo, eventually you're gonna wind up talking about that. And she was clearly surprised that people were like, "Oh, that's really fucked up, man. That's really fucked up. Why would you tell a story like that as if it's an amusing little anecdote that people are gonna laugh about?" So that's where you end up when you take things like this and you say that is a value system where you want to be more virtuous than the last person, right? So where do you go? You go to more bizarre and excessive revelations about yourself.
Right, exactly. Dodger 12, the Boeing 666, the best yet. Yes, thank you.
I'll be avoiding that one. Yeah.
Let's give a cowbell to Vigan Zorabian. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. Zarabian. I need more cowbell. I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Great to be part of the team yesterday, garnering signatures to be on the ballot for the next Congressman Jose Vega. Oh, so we met you yesterday. I could have
used a little more cowbell.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for being there yesterday. Appreciate it. It was good to meet you, too. Thank you very much for coming. That was a great time. Boeing CIA partner, says Sparky, deleted the whistleblower in an inelegant or obvious fashion to set an example for would-be whistleblowers. CIA works domestically with impunity nowadays. Indeed.
That's what I'm saying. It was fucking transparent.
Pardon me. Anyone who thinks Democrats will save Johnson in election year after getting exactly what they wanted got a bridge to sell you. Thanks, T.S. Crasher. Yeah, I mean, they probably won't, but then again, they are in love with him now. Maybe it's just a fling. Rosanna Rapalavicious, thanks for the $10. Johnson is a Christian Zionist, extremist, warmonger, fanatic, fantastic moron. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Rosanna. Okay, let's keep the chains moving here. Got some more material to cover on this Sunday morning. This happened a few days ago. Another disgrace to add to the long list of disgraces these past 6.5 months here. U.S. vetoes Palestinian bid for recognition as full UN member states. The United States blocked the United Nations Security Council on Thursday from moving forward on a Palestinian bid to be recognized as a full member state at the UN, quashing an effort by Palestinian allies to get the world body to back the effort. The vote was 12 in favor of the resolution and 1, the United States, opposed, with abstentions from Britain and Switzerland. The Palestinian envoy to the United States, Riyad Mansour, had described the bid for full member status as an effort to take our rightful place among the community of nations. After the vote, Mr. Mansour, visibly upset, delivered a passionate address asserting the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. So we can take a look here.
And please raise their hand.
At the veto vote. That's Malta calling the vote here.
Those against?
Here he is again.
Abstentions?
Britain and Switzerland abstain.
The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
Wow.
This vote does not reflect opposition to Palestinian statehood.
Oh, no.
It remains the U.S. view that the most expeditious path towards statehood for the Palestinian people is through direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority with the support of the United States and other partners. We believe this approach can tangibly advance Palestinian goals in a meaningful and enduring way.
Sure. Yeah.
You see, a lot of people say, oh, Joe Biden hasn't done anything for black people, but he has clearly started a jobs program for black people voting against Israel at the UN.
Right. He has to use black people to make our policies look as not so racist as they are. Right. Here.
Yeah, what happened? Token McGinty couldn't take the shame anymore. She
well,
quit?
they alternate. All
right.
But here is the Palestinian envoy giving his reaction. Here is Riyad Mansour.
بل أن شعبنا الفلسطيني كافة في كل أماكن تواجده يريد الحياة ويتشبث بها كسائر شعوب الأرض شعب يتوق للحرية والحياة الكريمة والعيش بسلام شعبنا الفلسطيني لن يختفي ولن يندثر.
Okay, now back to the article. Our right to self-determination is a natural right, a historical right to live in our homeland, Palestine, as an independent state that is free and that is sovereign, he said. Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, that's a good name for Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz. Can't think of a better name than that for the foreign minister of Israel.
A little on the nose.
Yeah, a little on the nose. The shameful proposal was rejected. Terrorism will not be rewarded. The Security Council has consistently called for a two-state solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, a result that has failed to materialize during negotiations between the two sides. Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, said in Tokyo on Friday, oh, that's why she couldn't be there. She was in Tokyo. She was out of town. That the new resolution would not have brought a two-state solution closer. This is unbelievable. The resolution provides for the Palestinian Authority to be a member of the UN, Ms. Thomas Greenfield told reporters. Right now, the Palestinians don't have control over a significant portion of what is supposed to be their state. It's being controlled by a terrorist organization, she said, referring to Hamas. The United States, along with the 4 other permanent members of the council, can veto any action before it. On Thursday afternoon, During a high-profile council meeting to address issues in the Middle East, including the Palestinian bid for full UN membership, the United States, a staunch ally of Israel's, wielded that veto. The resolution had asked the 15-member Security Council to recommend to the 193-member UN General Assembly that the state of Palestine be admitted to membership of the United Nations, diplomats said. To pass, the application needed to be approved by the Security Council with at least 9 votes in favor and no vetoes by the U.S., Britain, France, Russia, or China. Then at least 2/3 of the General Assembly would have had to approve it. Full Palestinian membership in the UN would be an important, if largely symbolic, victory for the Palestinian Authority, which has long sought a nation state. Had the Palestinian application been accepted, the new status would have brought the privileges of UN membership, including voting rights and a rotating seat on the Security Council. Last slide, and perhaps the most important. Many of the most critical issues regarding a Palestinian state, however, would not have been resolved, including physical borders and recognition by individual countries with which it would have needed to establish diplomatic relations. Israel was admitted as a full UN member in 1949. The Palestinian Authority had been seeking a state made up of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip for decades. Those territories have all been captured or annexed by Israel. So what this report says, rightly, is that admittance to the UN as a fully recognized member state would have been largely symbolic, which means that the gaslighting from the U.S. representatives, Linda Thomas Greenfield and whoever the other guy was, saying, no, we're not against them becoming a state, is just that. It's gaslighting. If it's largely symbolic, why wouldn't you vote for it? Why wouldn't you vote for it as a gesture of goodwill, right? It's not binding. It wouldn't establish physical borders. It would give them a more formally recognized seat at the table. So if you're worried that this is moving too fast or that this is not the time or the way to go about this, there is not going to be, this is largely a symbolic process anyway. And given the fact that Joe Biden himself is on record now as supporting 2 states, why wouldn't you vote for it? Answer, you won't vote for it because you want to signal to Israel that you have their back all day, every day, and that this latest thing with the world's central kitchen seems to amount to nothing more than a hiccup, because ever since the Iran airstrike exchange, if you will, we have been backing Israel staunchly, and now we are vetoing a largely symbolic measure to admit them as a state member to the UN. If you were for this, but you felt like it was moving along too quickly, there's nothing about this resolution that you should veto. This is just a gesture of goodwill. That's basically all this really amounts to at the end of the day, was a gesture of goodwill, and we couldn't even do that.
Well, and also The Intercept ran an article of leaked internal cables of the U.S. As a matter of policy, we oppose a 2-state solution. We oppose a Palestinian state. So any claims, oh, no, we support it, but we feel the party. No, we don't. No, we don't. That's to try to calm down Muslim voters in Michigan. Right. And that's to try to calm down young voters who are not feeling the Biden burn. But we don't actually believe in it. You really want to see the arrogance of empire. You really want to see the arrogance that comes with being a citizen of an imperial power. Do you really believe that every other member of the Security Council has it wrong?
Right.
That all of the other members are wrong-headed and siding with terrorists? Really? Really? And we're the only good ones? What's more likely? That we're the evil here, or that all of the other members that voted for it they're all wrong and we're right? That is imperial arrogance. Because you talk to people, oh, it's complicated. No, it isn't. No, it really isn't. It wasn't so complicated that the other 14 couldn't come to the same conclusion. It's just us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And time after time after time. Right? Not just an isolated incident, right? Just repeat vetoes. Repeatedly, we are seen as being on a unique side of this. A unique side of this.
Always, every time. We're the only ones vetoing the rights of these victims of colonial and imperial powers. We're always on the other side from the rest of the world. The rest of the world is always wrong? Really? And then you have to ask, and hey, I should have some credibility here. I've had my criticisms of China. But in the end, as an actor in the world, as a member of the family of nations, they tend to be a peacemaking power. They tend to want to tamp down these kinds of tensions, and they tend to be on the right sides of these issues, whereas we are not. This is why I always say a world where China was taking the lead on foreign affairs would, in all likelihood, be a much more peaceful world.
Yeah, and China gave a great speech in response to this vote too. So that's something to think about also, for sure. Could do quintessentials. You can always send us an email, or what you could also do is you can put the question in the Rumble chat. That would require that you are there. But if you have a question that we'd like to answer and it's longer and more involved, yeah, you could send it over for sure. Do you I like that? Do you ever wonder if Bill was a Chelsea handler? Yeah, good one. We can't answer that, but good one.
It's
yes,
not a very exclusive club, according to her.
Exactly. Sorry, out of subject, but I am so angry. As a Turkish American who grew up in a secular country and family, I'm shocked to see the Bible referenced to justify political actions in a hearing in a secular country, Congress. Yeah, no, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Mike Johnson also gave, a very biblical reason for wanting to pass the Israel aid through. And that's not the last we'll hear of that kind of rhetoric on the show, because we actually have quite a piece of video to play coming up. But thank you, Yasim. That's very kind of you, that donation. Thank you. I don't understand, says Stone Socialist, how anyone can support giving Ukraine more money after Cy Hirsch exposed that Zelensky embezzled at least $400 million by buying cheaper fuel from Russia. No, it's complete. I mean,
yeah,
no,
we're buying fuel from Russia through workarounds.
Yeah, look, no issue, I would argue, no major sort of like geopolitical issue is as upside down as that. Like, the Israel issue is just kind of plain evil in plain sight. It's imperialism. It's might makes right. That's what we say. That is the subtext to everything we say. It's fairly easy. This whole Ukraine is winning and they are a noble army and a functioning democracy. I mean, this is just absolute Orwellian up is down kind of shit. Like, you're right. Like, the fact that it's been reported that there's all this waste and grift and stuff. Like, yeah, how could you even, like, what are you even talking about? And on a more urgent level than that, Hakeem Jeffries saying how, this is going to save a lot of lives. No, I'm sorry. That was Zelensky himself saying this is going to save a lot of lives. It's going to do the exact opposite. I mean, just talk about up is down, war is peace. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is.
You're literally going to wipe out 2 generations of Ukrainians, right? I mean, you're just going to wipe out the male population up through middle-aged men at the very least.
Yeah. That's what they're on track to do. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, are they going to move the migrants that are fleeing our imperial wars into Ukraine? Like, what are they going to do? And honestly, I would not be surprised if that's the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Well, Ukraine needs a workforce.
Right. Right. Indeed. All right, we've got a couple more segments to get done today. This is a big one. This is the segment I was probably most excited to do, since this really took shape over the weekend, where Columbia University President Minouche Shafik, is that how you say her name? Shafik? I don't know how to say her name, but she was called into Congress for her time in the barrel. Don't forget, they brought in the president of UPenn, they brought in the president of MIT. Now it was Columbia University's time in the barrel. She had to go for her congressional struggle session, if you will. And in anticipation of being thrown under the bus, students at the university created a Gaza Solidarity encampment. So here's a student explaining what this is about as their president is getting dragged before Congress.
Encampment today because Columbia University has continually refused to listen to the student body when we demand that they divest from the ongoing genocide in Gaza. We have tried referendums, we have tried peacefully protesting. At every turn, they have violated their own policies to crack down, and so we decided that an escalation was necessary because we refused to have this go on for any longer. We decided to have this encampment here today because it's the same day that our university president was testified in front of Congress, throwing all of us under the bus, bragging about the fact that she has suspended students, that she has cracked down on pro-Palestine activism to an unprecedented degree. And we wanted to, in fact, shift the focus away from this political theater back to the situation in Gaza and to our demands. The reason why we've been doing this and why this movement has grown exponentially in the first place is for the people in Palestine, and we will not back down no matter how many congressional hearings they have trying to throw us under the bus.
Good for her. Good for them.
Yep.
So here's what she's talking about. Now, look, there were a lot of clips to choose from when it came to highlighting the degree to which this dingbat university president threw her students under the bus, but none more brilliantly demonstrates it than this clip where you have the president of an Ivy League university, which is a pillar of intellectual vigor, being asked the most cartoonishly absurd question imaginable by some fucking Christian right whack job Rick Allen. And from Georgia. And look at how she handles this.
Clear, it was a covenant that God made with Abraham. And that covenant was real clear. If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you. And then in the New Testament, it was confirmed that all nations would be blessed through you. So you do not know about that.
I have heard that. Now that you've explained
Okay.
it, yes, I
So
have heard that
it's
before.
now familiar. Do you consider that a serious issue? I mean, do you want Columbia University to be cursed by God of the Bible?
Definitely not.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Absolutely.
It's
What
pretty clear.
pathetic.
It was-
I just want to play this last piece here. Okay.
And do you want Columbia University?
I've heard that
It's
before.
now familiar. Do you consider that a serious issue?
No. No. You're the president of Columbia University. There's nothing that Columbia University students and faculty, the whole ethos of a liberal Ivy League university is to counter ridiculous anti-intellectual nonsense like this. There's no one that these Ivy League progressives detest more than these Christian right rubes, and yet you get dragged to Congress and you have one of these idiots tell you about how, well, you don't want your Columbia University to be accursed, do you? Do you consider this a serious issue? How does any self-respecting person not say, no, of course it's not a serious issue. Of course this is superstitious nonsense. We at Columbia University, an institution of so-called higher learning and intellectual pursuit, do not take that seriously. What a ridiculous thing to ask me. Instead, she tucks her tail between her legs, not once, twice. Oh, I didn't know that. No, I certainly don't want it to be cursed. Look,
I mean, do you want Columbia University to be cursed by God of the Bible?
Definitely not.
Okay.
So
Well,
she
that's
allows
good.
herself
It's
to be
pretty clear.
totally humiliated by this person who stands for everything these progressive Ivy League universities supposedly stand in opposition to. And then to add insult to injury,
Now
same day.
Are you closer to the Hudson River or to the East River?
Yeah, right.
All right.
exactly.
Are you willing to lead your students down to the river for their baptism upon your
exactly.
arrival back in New York? Yes.
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 Yeah, yes.
Yes. I could do that.
I could do, yeah, whatever you say.
No, what a disgusting careerist. I mean, clearly all she was thinking about here is Claudine Gay, and I forget the name of the one at UPenn.
Yeah, I forget the other one too.
The chancellor at UPenn who got removed. That's it. She's just like, I'm saving my career. These Zionists have a long memory and a lot of money, and they fund a lot of grants and chairs. And if I abase myself enough, even if I'm not at Columbia, they'll always take care of me. Just like in politics, just like why they go along in politics, because they know as long as they go along, they'll get seats on boards of directors. They'll be fine. You cross these people, that's it. You're screwed.
Well, not only does she embarrass herself, her university, and really her entire institution, right? I mean, the entire institution of like elite higher education, which prides itself on being the opposite of these fucking morons. Do you want Columbia to go to hell, right? Not only does she embarrass herself.
Are you aware there's a hell mouth at 135th Street?
Yeah, exactly.
It's been well documented on Ghost Hunters.
Same day, this is what she has done. Police come in, raid the camps, and arrest over 100 students. So not only do you throw them under the bus rhetorically in Washington, D.C., then you actually sick the cops on the student protesters to break up the encampment. That is unbelievable. So here's the write-up. Columbia sends in the NYPD to arrest protesters in Tent City. For about a day and a half, pro-Palestinian activists at Columbia University set up what they called a liberated zone, a temporary community with the spirit and values they wished existed on campus always. It was an impromptu tent village with more than 50 tents pitched on a large green lawn just outside the school's imposing main library. It had a gathering area under a white awning heaped with supplies donated by fellow students. A red spray-painted sign announced its name, Gaza Solidarity Encampment. For those hours, living and gathering in the encampment felt purposeful and important, the activist said. A film screening was held after midnight. There was a teach-in. Hundreds of students marched around the encampment to show support. It really feels like we've taken over the university and made it into the vision that students want it to be, and not what these bigwigs who want to encroach on academic freedom want it to be, said Mariam Alwan, one of the organizers. But for Columbia University, the encampment was anything but an Eden. The university's president, Namat Shafiq, fresh from a congressional hearing in which she had pledged to enforce the university's rules on protests, tried to get the students to stand down. When they did not, she decided to break with a decades-long norm in the university's approach to quelling protests. She gave the police a green light to come in. The current encampment violates all of the new policies, severely disrupts campus life, and creates a harassing and intimidating environment for many of our students, she wrote in a letter to the Columbia community sent around 1:15 p.m. on Thursday. Within minutes, police officers, many in riot gear, flooded into the campus and surrounded the lawn. Inside the encampment, roughly 100 students linked arms and sat in rows. A large crowd of students and onlookers gathered. The police began to arrest the students, placing their hands into zip ties. The crowd chanted, "Shame on you," and let them go. The protesters did not resist. They had expected they would be arrested, they said, because they had vowed not to move until Columbia divests from companies supporting Israel, something the school has repeatedly said it will not do. The students were also suspended, the Columbia administration announced.
Including Ilhan Omar's daughter, apparently.
Yes, including Ilhan Omar's daughter, the day after she grilled the head of the university. Yes. As the camp was dismantled, some onlookers dispersed, but others continued to rally. They relocated a protest to the next lawn to the west. Dozens of students hopped over a fence and formed a circle on the wet grass. "Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest," they chanted. Cornell West, the public intellectual and independent candidate for president, came to address the students in solidarity. He called Columbia's response to the protesters a colossal failure in terms of morality. "We know from the history of the species to stand up for truth and justice is to pay a price," Mr. West said. By 4 p.m., 2 new tents had been pitched, and the Gaza Solidarity encampment sign had been resurrected and displayed again. So they were not intimidated. Here's the next day. Here's our friend Norman Finkelstein showing his support on the grounds. This is after the cops came and broke up that first protest and made that first round. So here he is. Oops, I'm sorry.
Now, the Israeli Defense Forces, it is a genocidal army. Why are you allowed to have public support for a genocide, at this moment, a genocidal state and a genocidal army? Okay, the language doesn't seem as provocative. We support the idea, but the content is 10,000 times more offensive and outrageous to any, so to speak, civilized mind and civilized heart than the "from the river to the sea" slogan. And the only reason there is an argument about that slogan, even though, as I said, I disagree with it, but that's a separate matter, whether I agree or disagree with it. The only reason there's an argument about that slogan is because we have legitimized this notion that hurt feelings are grounds for stifling speech. And that, to me, is totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody pointed out, hopefully these kids, who I am sure, and we said this from the beginning when this broke out, I am sure 10 minutes ago, most of these kids supported the idea that speech is violence. I hope this is a lesson to a generation about how dangerous that idea is now that it's been turned against them.
Well, that's the point he was making there, and I thought it was really great of him to go there and say that,
Yes,
because
exactly.
he said, look, the reason this is happening to you is because they basically turned your own premise on you.
Yes,
right? And it's not a premise that they brought into it. They were taught that by the people at the university.
Yep.
It's like it's top down. But there's a reason why they set that trap, and it is a trap. That is a trap that they set for you, so that when you actually radicalize for real, right, against real power and against real interest, they can shut you down saying, well, people feel threatened by what you're saying. There were no reports of harassment or violence at those encampments. Those were peaceful protests. Right. But they're saying that your rhetoric is dangerous, and they taught students to absorb that. And so, Norm now, for the past 6.5 months, obviously, since he's devoted most of his life to this issue, he's been making the rounds talking about the horrific crimes of the Israeli state. Before that, though, his book that came out last year was about academic freedom and was all about the stifling of speech by woke identitarian progressive movements. And so great that he's able to show up there and sort of combine those two arguments by saying, hey, look, all of that wokeness was just a trap. It was just to shield them from real criticism when it became due. Real movements against real entrenched power systems. That whole discourse, that whole method of argument was meant to keep you, I will say contained, right? Meant to contain discourse between certain boundaries that they would control. And when it got out of their control, what did they do? They called the fucking cops. Like the establishment goons they are and have always been. What did they do when there was an organic protest that ruffled the feathers of the Columbia University president and fucking Rick Allen, fucking Leatherface's brother-in-law down there when he gave her a hard time? They called the fucking police because they're not anti-establishment. They're not right. It's Columbia. It costs $60,000 a year to go to Columbia. You come out of there in debt so that you'll be a functionary of the system. And when you piss them off, they'll call the fucking police on you, which is what they did. And so it is a lesson that I hope is learned, and I think it is. I mean, I think this is sinking in.
Do you want the Antichrist to devour your innards?
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. So good on Norm for showing up in the first place. I mean, that was big of him to do. And it was also a great point to drive home in that circumstance. What a perfect time and place to make that point. And I think the kids are learning. I mean, I think it is sinking in.
Yes. And you know what? That, and again, you hesitate to look on the bright side of such horrific circumstances. But, the Jesuits used to say, give me the child until they're 7 and I'll have them for the rest of their lives. Right. Now, hopefully that was an exaggeration, although it showed pretty good insight into what we know today about cognitive formation and childhood development. But it does feel like they're being caught at a formative enough moment that maybe we wind up with them not being another generation of dangerous whack jobs like the head of NPR, who heads a news organization and described the First Amendment as the greatest obstacle to stopping the spread of disinformation, and felt that it's a problematic precept because they were definitely on track to just continue with that script, which I don't have to tell anyone, I think, watching this show, how essentially dangerous those ideas are, how dangerous this assault on speech in the guise of that being a liberal or left position is. So now that they've really gotten a personal taste of those ideas, hopefully they will. It seems very often in history, people have to relearn what people had already known, but then they forget. It seems like they're getting a new lesson in why liberals of the 60s and 70s, many of whom had been student protesters, were so dedicated to the idea, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it, because they themselves had been victims of this kind of repression.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
And it's interesting this is happening at Columbia because it was one of the most infamous flashpoints of protests and campus takeovers during the Vietnam era.
They had encampments back then. They did the same exact thing.
They did the same thing, and many of them went on to be members of the Weather Underground, many of the most prominent Columbia protesters.
Yep, indeed. Amadeus, thank you for the $5. Gimli, Vega, come campaign in the mines of Moria. My cousin Balin would give you a royal endorsement. Thank you, Amadeus. AIPAC wipes out the entire Progressive Caucus. Gimli, that still only counts as one. Yeah, they got, it's looking like, I covered this with Kit Cabello a couple weeks ago, or maybe was it last week or a couple weeks? It was, I think, a week and a half ago. Yeah, Jamal Bowman looks like he's probably losing that race too. So they could get two. They could get Cory Bush and
He's
Jamal
getting
Bowman.
buried. All right, I think I've mentioned this before. So the remaining Zionists I fight with every ounce of my will never to engage them because I don't want to burn my listening posts. And it's bearing fruit. I actually know a probably the craziest Zionist I listen in on lives in Bowman's district and just volunteered for his opponent. I forget his name.
George Latimer.
Yeah,
George
just
Latimer.
volunteered for him. So that's the kind of person who lives in that county. Bowman is toast.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard for him to keep that seat. Understand what our UN rep was saying, that Palestinian statehood will be considered after a peace agreement. It has given Israel a de facto veto. Yeah, well, right. They've given them a veto. They're saying you can only agree to it when Israel is ready, and Israel is just stringing us along. Obviously, I mean, they have rejected that time and time again over these past several months, as we've seen over and over. We need more Rocky and Bullwinkle. Thank you, Dodger 12. I consider it a serious issue that you're bringing this up, Mr. Allen. Yeah, it's, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that would be an answer. That would make her a hero in certain circles, but
I mean, if that doesn't crystallize it for you right there, because look, I've said a million times, I said the Ivy League universities are vessels into power. They are not instruments to be wielded against power. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, that the president of Columbia University will make a fool out of herself in front of some Christian right politician from rural Georgia.
It's
in order
hard to even
to
wrap
save
your
face
head
with the
around that
Zionists,
somebody said
tells,
that.
Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know.
Do you
they
want
will
Columbia
debase themselves in
cursed
that
by
way.
God?
Yeah, do you
Like
want
this was
Columbia
literally
cursed by
said
God?
on the floor of Congress.
Yeah, yeah, and that's everything they stand against, right? Everything the Ivy League universities stand against, but they will bow to these people in the name of staying on the good side of the powers that be at the end of the day. Chinese government has a tendency toward harmony and sees geopolitical harmony as a benefit. The U.S. government tends towards chaos and sees geopolitical chaos as a benefit, blind to it causing their destruction. It's a good point, Sparky. It's a good insight.
Yep.
Josh Woods, thanks for the 10 pounds, pardon me. If Jesus was on this earth today, he would have been appalled by this senator for not only he didn't shun Gentiles and foreigners, but he was also screwed over by the Jewish priests themselves. Thank you, Josh Woods. Sultana Bhatti, thank you for that 1999 pounds. Appreciate that. Hear from Jimmy Dore to see The Two Jews. As a Muslim from the UK, I love Keaton's monologues, especially giving me loads of insight into U.S. Jewish issues. Lots of laughs, as well as plenty of hope and heart. Thank you, Russell and Keaton. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
Thank you.
That is very kind of you to say, indeed. Cornell, Sister Shafiq needs the sister stand down. He had a rally planned in New York that he sent a mass email. Yeah, I'm on his email list because I think I signed up for his email list way back when. But he claimed that the authorities had it canceled, but I don't know if that's true. Maybe it was just canceled for lack of interest. They gave very little detail as to why it was canceled at the last minute.
Louis Armstrong once recorded the great song, I Love a Parade. This is my version. I love to jump out in front of a parade. That's why I'm here at Columbia today with you fine people.
Well, he's also, as Jose said, he was also he's trying to get on the ballot. That's what Jose said. You think, he's coming here to because the signature window is now open. But I didn't see anybody from Cornell's team. We saw the RFK team out there yesterday.
Yeah, we didn't see any Cornell people.
Stone Socialist, shit libs like Handler are basically Republicans with a superiority complex. Yes, thank you. Another solid show, says Luis de la Cruz. Thank you. Appreciate that. Good to have a good review come in. We are at the point, says Rebel Cat Tom. We are at the point of taxation without representation. Thank you.
Clearly, you look at the Stanford study, when I see people talk about losing our democracy, what democracy?
Yeah.
What democracy? They did that study like 10 years ago, and things have not gotten better. It showed, for anyone who doesn't know, that only really the upper 20% have any impact on legislation. The bottom 80% has less than 1%. So little impact, it's statistical noise. You can't even call it impact. So unless you are in that upper 20%, you are taxed without representation.
Bulldozer 74. It doesn't matter the side. The government hates us. I finally did my first live stream the other day. Had a blast. Check out my channel when you have a chance. I talk about things and stuff at Bulldozer 74. Sounds like a good channel. Thank you. I will check it out. And congratulations.
Be careful. Our habit started as a blog, and pretty quick it progressed to shows and Now
slippery slope.
Now we're hitting it several times a week.
Yeah. Slippery slope, as they say. E.F. Husseau, I'm assuming that's Eric Husseau, Ukraine, the land without a people, New Israel. Yeah.
Exactly.
Somebody put a horse's head in Johnson's bed. Thanks, Ubicuz77. Appreciate that. Okay, Ellen. Hey, Ellen, how are you? The CU chapter of the American Association of University Professors strongly condemned its president's actions and says she violated policy. Good to know. We will probably do a follow-up segment on that on Tuesday because that is good to know. So appreciate that.
Today I settle all family business.
Yeah. Okay. We got one more, right? We can do one more?
Yep. I think so,
go ahead.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And where the hell is it?
Where do you got? Okay.
Yep,
there we go.
All right.
All right. Now, before we start this, we just want to be clear. We mean this with love. We mean this with total love for Google because Google gives us a platform and we adore Google and we want them to do better. So this is just constructive criticism. We have nothing but love in our hearts for our mother corporation.
Yea, the Google beast doth see all with its multitudinous eyes and search engines.
This is meant with love. We mean this all out of love.
With
this
love.
is all coming from a place of love.
To Google with love.
Yes.
All right. So Google, the Google beast, fired 28 workers for protesting $1.2 billion Israel contract. Workers staged sit-in protests at the company's offices in Seattle, New York, and Sunnyvale, California. Google has fired more than 24 employees for protesting its $1.2 billion contract to provide the Israeli government and military with cloud and artificial intelligence services. 28 people were fired after 9 employees were arrested Tuesday night following a sit-in at the company's offices in Seattle, New York, and Sunnyvale, California. Now, the New York office is right across from Chelsea Market. I think they paid $1 billion for that building. It takes up the entire block.
Yeah, that was a huge sale. That was either the most or second most expensive real estate sale in history. I think it was $2 billion.
Was it $2 billion?
I think it was, yeah.
Including one at Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian's office, according to the group that organized the demonstration, No Tech for Apartheid. Protesters sat in his office for more than 9 hours, wearing shirts and raising banners that read, "No more genocide for profit," until they were eventually arrested. The protests were led by No Tech for Apartheid, a group of tech workers who have been demanding Amazon and Google drop their Project Nimbus, which is a joint $1.2 billion project providing the Israeli government and military with cloud infrastructure, artificial intelligence services, and data centers. No Tech for Apartheid said that the workers had engaged in a, quote, peaceful sit-in and refusing to leave did not damage property or threaten other workers, and that Google had fired them indiscriminately. Quote, this excuse to avoid confronting us and our concerns directly and attempt to justify its illegal retaliatory firings is a lie, it said in a statement late Wednesday, accusing the company of valuing its contract with the Israeli government more than its employees. Google issued a stern warning to its employees, with the company's vice president of global security, Chris Rakow, saying, quote, if you're one of the few who are tempted to think we're going to overlook conduct that violates our policies, think again, according to an internal memo obtained by CNBC. The company also said its work, quote, is not directed at highly sensitive, classified, or military workloads relevant to weapons or intelligence services. Quote, Google Cloud supports numerous governments around the world in countries where we operate, including the Israeli government, with our generally available cloud computing services, a Google spokesperson told CNBC on Wednesday evening. Now, that's a lie, and we're going to prove it. But first, let's take a look at this video.
You can't hide.
Google, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
If not, we'll have to call law enforcement and go in that space. And
This is the CEO of cloud computing at Google's office.
Get trespassed and all that.
Yeah, we understand.
Okay, just trying again. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now what you're going to notice here. So this video came courtesy of the organizers, No Tech for Apartheid. There was a dropout in the sound here for about 10 seconds. I am assuming something was said here they didn't want on the record, but I don't know.
You guys gotta leave. You guys refusing to leave? Is that what I'm saying? Okay. You first stand up.
These are the New York offices.
Hello there.
Everyone?
Yes.
We repeatedly asked you to leave.
That's right.
And I've already informed you that your access to the corporate property has been removed, that you've been placed on administrative leave. We're asking you to leave again for the last time.
We will not be leaving.
Okay, so with NYPD, just want to let everyone know it's being recorded on body-worn camera. So you were asked to leave.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll let you walk out the door right now. It's a non-issue if you're willing to go. If not, you're going to be arrested for trespass.
Yeah, we're not willing to leave.
Okay. Just leave your put your hands on that.
Google arresting its own employees.
I just want to point something out here since it comes up in this video. I was actually speaking to somebody who came out to volunteer for Jose yesterday, who said, you know, a lot of people think that these protesters are all COVIDians because they're wearing masks. No, we're actually wearing masks to hide our faces, and it's a socially acceptable way to do it. It's not as obvious as wearing a bandana around your face. It's a way that they think you're just a COVIDian. I would say, based on my experience of being around people who are protesting Palestine, I think that's probably true. I don't see most of those people walking around with the OCD symptoms of a COVIDian. I think they're hiding their faces. So getting back to the deceit of Google in its statement here that they're not involved in the military workloads. Time actually published an expose on this. Google contract shows deal with Israel Defense Ministry. So they are lying. They're straight up lying. Google provides cloud computing services to the Israeli Ministry of Defense, and the tech giant has negotiated deepening its partnership during Israel's war in Gaza, a company document viewed by Time shows. The Israeli Ministry of Defense, according to the document, has its own landing zone into Google Cloud, a secure entry point to Google-provided computing infrastructure, which would allow the ministry to store and process data and access AI services. The ministry sought consulting assistance from Google to expand its Google Cloud access, seeking to allow, quote, multiple units to access automation technologies, according to a draft contract dated March 27, 2024. The contract shows Google billing the Israeli Ministry of Defense over $1 million for the consulting service. So there's no way this is a misunderstanding or that Google doesn't know who's using the cloud service. They literally billed the Ministry of Defense. The worker, so this is getting back to the NBC article. I also want to point out, I didn't include that part of the article. The contract that Google has, according to the Times article, specifically forbids them from dictating which parts of the Israeli government are allowed to use the service. So there is no way that they can honestly make the statement that they're not doing business with the military branch. The workers were also protesting labor conditions at the company, saying the contract was affecting health and safety on the job. And what they said was Google's disregard for the well-being of our Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim colleagues facing Google-enabled racism, discrimination, harassment, and censorship. The project has become a major health and safety workplace conditions issue, with many employees quitting after having cited mental health consequences of working at a company that is using their labor to enable a genocide, the group said in a statement posted Wednesday on Medium. Quote, on a personal level, I am opposed to Google taking any military contracts, no matter which government they're with or what exactly the contract is about, Shine Anderson, a Google Cloud software engineer based in Washington, told CNBC on Wednesday. Anderson was one of the 9 workers arrested across the country Tuesday, with some of the arrests streamed live on Twitch. 4 people were arrested for trespassing inside Google's New York office, a New York police spokesperson told NBC News on Wednesday. Almost 50 protesters had taken part in the demonstration, the spokesperson said. Now, there are other parts of the article that say, yeah, there are a lot more people who feel this way at Google, which I'm sure is true given the age skew of people working in these industries, but they're afraid to speak up. right? I mean, these people just made themselves toxic in this industry. How many? It's not just Google that has a deal with the Israeli government. Amazon does too. You know, how many of these companies are not going to do business with Israel? Apple, fucking Elon. You think Elon's not going to do business? All these companies are going to do business with Israel.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a much more widespread thing than just Google, and obviously, you know, we see academia, you know, really falling in line as well. Not just calling the cops on the Columbia University protesters, but you had the Palestinian valedictorian at USC have her speech canceled, which, you know, they claimed was due to harassment and threats. She was willing to go forward and say what she needed to say. She didn't even have a chance to write her speech in advance of being told that it was not going to move forward. So yeah, I mean, look, it's a very, very widespread problem. Obviously, Google, you had the spectacle of these, you know, actually escorting the employees out of the building. But yeah, I mean, this is something you would see in every office if you had people who were willing to go so far as to have that happen to them.
Right. Right. Well, not only to be arrested, but how are they going to get hired anywhere after that? There are not a lot of companies that are going to be able to pay them what Google can pay them, who are going to hire people who got arrested for protesting in the office.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We'll take some more super chats on our way out of here, and then we will close the lights on today's stream. Like I said, I will be live with Tusker at 7 o'clock for paid members. So we got a supporter stream coming up later tonight at 7 o'clock, which is the typical time for the public stream. So we'll take some of these before we leave. Robeson 1070, funny how old school bootlegging conservative respect for order and touchy-feeling prevention of the harassing, intimidating environment equals the same thing.
Yep,
yes,
that's a very good point.
Indeed. Chirpy, you guys should check out Rappaport on Fallout Show. Did Russell get to that episode?
I saw that. Okay, so the way they cast him, you have to ask, are the producers pro-Palestine? Like, because they cast him the way that we might cast Rappaport, as this pompous coward, who ends up. Okay, I don't want to give away a spoiler, but they basically cast him as Mike Rappaport in the Fallout universe.
Yeah, I mean, they probably cast him a year ago before they realized what a pompous
yeah, but
coward
he was already known as that.
Yeah, he was already. That's true. That is true. This is an act of desperation. Let's see if they can enforce this without galvanizing and further radicalizing people. Imperialism is falling. We will win. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. Julia MR, hope these young adults support free speech and bodily autonomy when the next pandemic is declared, because it's coming. Pete Sweet, neoliberal neocon psychopaths just double down on Ukrainian Israeli Taiwan funding, readying to shut down free speech on TikTok to show they are all in, regardless of looming World War III possibilities. Yes, they added the TikTok ban as a sort of cherry on top. It was quite the day in Washington yesterday. I'm so tired of the word democracy. It's dead to me. Yes, I agree. His Highness, I got here super late, but I hope Russ and Keaton's little guy are both little ugly little guys. I thought you were hoping that's a typo. Are both feeling better? Yes. It's funny. My guys are still a little bit sniffly, but
I have sniffles too. You might have noticed.
Yeah. Well, we were also out all day yesterday.
That's true.
That's not the easiest way to recover. Weaponized mass against the establishment. See how quickly they banned them. Yeah, they might have to.
You got a good point. But when the activist said that to me, it actually makes sense.
I've heard that before.
You think there's that many people at Google who are walking around with masks because they're afraid of COVID? Come on.
Virtuoso, thanks for $9.99. Great to see you guys.
We
and
saw
Jose,
Virtuoso.
yes. Great to see you yesterday too. In the South Bronx, after catching a Yankee game, Bronx needs to be renamed Ukraine and to redirect foreign aid to one of the poorest counties in America. Yeah, it was great to meet you yesterday, Virtuoso. I'm sorry the game wasn't better. I know they got shut out. How many Pelosi's does it take to corrupt Congress? Thank you, Where's Skill? That's funny. Michael Dubuque, thank you for the donation. I'm not sure what that currency is, but I'll look it up. That looks cool. My first time watching you guys live.
Philippine, I guess.
Maybe. Here's for all your hard work. Keep up the great job. Usually can't watch your live stream since I'm from the Philippines. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Pardon me. And we do a morning show every Thursday at 9 a.m., so maybe those are easier for you to catch out there. But we thank you guys all very much for being here. We had a big crowd here today, well over 2,000 in the YouTube and Twitter chat, 1,500 over on Rumble. That's fantastic to see. So thank you guys all very much for being here. We will be back on the air at 7 p.m. I will have Tusker here with me for a supporter stream. So if you would like to help support this program, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents, and you can support the show there. Let's see here. What did you do? Did you hit something?
Yeah, I hit that guy.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't get into the guy who lit himself on fire. We have limited time. We got to pick our stories. We're a little late on that. If we had like a Thursday show, we would have done it. But I mean, what's there to say? It's horrible. If you look at the video I did, a lot of people commented it has a very third world post-apocalyptic vibe down there. Having been down there, I hate to say it, but it doesn't surprise me that something like that happened. I think it's a symptom of the country we're living in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't really think there was much to say about that. It wasn't like an Aaron Bushnell kind of thing. Where,
That's different.
This seemed to be a troubled guy.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, it's a very sad thing. But like I said, folks, we are on again at 7 p.m. And so you can sign up if you want to help support the show. You get access to 2 bonus streams per month. You can go to Patreon. You can go to Substack. You can go to Locals. If you're watching on Rumble right now, you can hit that join button right underneath the screen. That takes you to our Locals page. Or you can go to dodissidents.locals.com. You can also join our Substack as a paid subscriber. The email, the invites for the 7 p.m. show tonight for patrons will be coming out fairly shortly. I'll have that out within the next hour or two. And we'll see you guys tonight. Tusker will be joining me while Russell flies out to Los Angeles. So you'll be seeing plenty of us this week. And we thank you all for being here. Masks used to be illegal in many areas because of the KKK. During COVID, laws were changed to allow them. It's interesting. Well, you used to see some people. I mean, you used to see people walking around with masks in New York City on occasion. A lot of the.
I mean, usually Asian.
Yeah, they used to have them on. Yeah. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you all. We will see you back here Tuesday afternoon, at 2 p.m. Eastern, and supporter stream tonight. So if you want to sign up and support the show, we will see you later. We got a fun one planned. Until we see you again, whenever that may be safe and be well. Thank you very much for this morning.
Courage.
Please clap.